The honourable member for Peterborough Court.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to say I'm sharing my time this afternoon with the member from Lakeland. It is always an honour to rise in the House of Commons and speak on behalf of my constituents of Peterborough Kawartha and for all of Canadians. I am the Shadow Minister for Families, Children and Social Development, and I've been pretty vocal in my cry of the mental health crisis across this country, and in particular our kids. And they're not doing okay. And today what we're going to talk about in the House directly impacts our children. So what are we talking about today, Madam Speaker? Today is an opposition motion day put forth by our leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. And an opposition motion is put forth by us, so we are the official opposition. We are not in government. We don't get to set the agenda. We don't get to set the policy. We are here as opposing members to bring balance to the government. The problem is we don't just have the Liberals in power. We have an NDP Liberal coalition that signed a deal that is deeply hurting Canadians. So the opposition motion today put forward that we are debating in this House is the House call on the government to introduce legislation within 7 days of this motion being adopted to repeal all carbon taxes to bring home lower prices on gas, groceries, and home heating. You can applaud for that, my Conservative colleagues. It is a very important piece of legislation, and it will give you an idea when the vote happens where the members in this House stand. The reality is there is very real consequences to decisions made and policy made in this House. And there are very real consequences to taxing fuel, which is what the carbon tax is. When you tax fuel that a farmer needs to run his tractors on his field or to take care of his animals, you are then going to have to transfer that tax to the trucker, who's going to have to move that food. You're then going to have to tax the manufacturer of the food. And guess who ends up paying that compounded price? You, Canadians, the people at home watching this. So what happens to your hard-earned paycheck? It falls out of your hand like sand. I asked last night through my social media channels to hear from my constituents, because that's what we're elected to do in this House. We're elected to listen and to be the voice of our ridings. There are about 115,000 people in my riding of Peterborough Kawartha. We are a bellwether riding, which means we are reflective of the entire country. So we're a bit of a microcosm of what happens in Canada. And I asked people to share their stories with me of how the carbon tax is impacting their lives. And I asked if I could read it into the record. So that's what I'm going to do right now, Madam Speaker. And I'm going to start with Shannon Montgomery Sundberg, who wrote, "Where do I even start? As a business owner that needs fuel for everything that is used, truck parts, plow parts, machinery, oils, insurance. Add on to the fact our customers are not able to pay the money owed to us due to their family situation. So many families struggling they cannot afford to hire extra help. We are in a position that there is not enough work to keep the business going. Then add on the stress of no income coming into the household. It starts affecting your mental health, as to which there is no help. It is so much more than carbon tax. It is a whole broken system. Ontarians are being forced out. We feel forced out, unwanted by a government that should be helping its people, not stomping on them while they are down. The division this government has put upon its people makes me cry almost every single day. There is nowhere you can go and not see the difficulties upon people. As a mother with 4 grown children, with spouses and grandchildren, I worry every day about the cost of food, healthy food. Can you imagine as a mother not being able to offer good, healthy food to your kids and their kids because you're trying to hold on to yourself? I'm a very proud Canadian with a very disgusting feeling for my government, my whole government. Every single person under our Prime Minister has had every opportunity to walk away or speak up. We the people voted the government in, and we the people should be able to say enough is enough. We want a government for the people. Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Chad wrote in, We live in a rural part of Ontario. With the current fuel prices, to fill my truck and SUV for my wife and I for 1 week is about $325. We spent $500 last week on groceries, and we have a family of 5. $825 in 1 week for groceries and fuel. Carol Ann Grant wrote, "Our power bill for 1 month is now $400. With heating our home, it takes our whole pension to pay household bills and leaves nothing for groceries." So you can imagine when the stats come out from Food Bank Canada that 7 million people are not able to feed themselves. That 1.5 million people a month are using food banks. These are people with jobs. That's what's happening across our country. This next message comes from Jeff Dunk, and Jeff wrote, "I work for a trucking company and we have drivers at home because there is not enough work because people don't want to pay the rates of transportation." Erica's message is pretty profound, as all of them are. Erica wrote, "My husband and myself work decent paying jobs, combined over $100,000. And we have 2 kids. We rent our 2-bedroom home and we have 2 vehicles. I run out of money 2 days after my payday. My 1 child is diabetic and the cost of groceries is ridiculous. I'm spending about $400 every 2 weeks to feed my kids. Then what does that mean? Hydro isn't getting paid, or only a portion is, just enough to keep the lights on. Or gas isn't getting paid to heat the house. How is it that a family making over $100,000 a year can't be comfortable? We are just as broke as when we were barely making $50,000 a year combined. I worked my way through life and I finally have a wage I always dreamed of having, and yet I'm getting nowhere. I am stuck in the small rental because I can't afford the rent for anywhere else. I'm penny pinching for 2 weeks to make it to the next payday. I'm tired. I feel defeated. It is no wonder mental health has become a crisis. Trudeau is to blame for that."
Have to use the title. I understand, but we cannot use the name, so just the title, please.
Madam Speaker. So this is the reality across the country. Because parents are not okay, because they are so busy worried about paying for food, heat, hydro, groceries, their kids are less engaged. They don't get the attention they need. They feel disconnected. We know this. If you read the Child First Agreement study that came out in August, this is an incredible organization that studies. This is what's happening to children in our country. Food security in children is up 29%. Canada ranks 30 out of 38 in the OECD child well-being. Canada ranks 81st out of 193 countries on the Global Kids' Right Index, which is down from 48th in 2022. And Madam Speaker, listen to this one. Suicide is a leading cause of death in children. Yes, this is linked to carbon tax, because the most compassionate thing you can do as a leader is make life affordable. That is what we need in this country. Jennifer wrote to me, "We have lived comfortably in a budget so that I could stay home with our kids because childcare was through the roof. My husband works nights at a logistic warehouse for a major grocery corporation. Never in the time that he has been there has there ever been such a slowdown, especially a week now before Thanksgiving. They are cramming more orders onto less trucks. The stores aren't selling the volume, so the orders are smaller, less frequent, and production is down to a third of normal volume. Hero workers who worked there, I'm reading this into the record because she wrote it, asses off during COVID, are now getting slapped in the face right before Christmas with layoffs and jobs lost. That is what the carbon tax has done to my family." Donna is a senior from my community. She called me this summer and she said, "Michelle, would you please stand in the House of Commons and ask the Prime Minister this question?" She wanted to know if he could live on $1,300 a month, because that is what she is doing. I have traveled this country. I have listened to the frontline workers who have severe burnout because they too are struggling with the cost of living. If the people who are on the front lines of our healthcare, of our social services, of our education system are not okay, if our parents are not okay, because they're laying in bed at night wondering if they're going to be able to keep their house, our kids are not okay. The most compassionate thing we can do today is approve this motion, get rid of the carbon tax, and care for these Canadians who are suffering. Thank you, Madam Speaker.